Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens by Jott-Nyx Paranormal. My name is Chad Thomas. And Jamie Widener is over there. Um, it's a Tuesday night, so this is where we're at. How are you, Jamie?
I'm wonderful, sir. What's going on with you?
Um, Getting through that last work push that we've been on that
Right.
work push for like 2 months, getting through that last little bit and winding down. As of
Nice.
Friday, all our big stuff is going to ship, and we are going to have a nice,
Gonna be
relaxing
breathing.
weekend.
Fantastic.
So, so
Wonderful.
anyway, what about you? What's
It's been a good week. It's been pretty calm and quiet for once, so no complaints there. We did have some as we went off the air last week. I was summoned, to another room to get an announcement. So we have a decision
this is
for
true?
college, for the graduating senior. So Penn State, Maine, here we come.
Yep.
Oh my, oh
Zoe's
my.
Zoe's very well. Zoe's as excited as Zoe gets about that. So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I tried to get a "we are" out of her, and I got a no.
so
Apparently, theater kids don't do that.
no, no,
Not yet, anyway. But there
no.
was one. The theater breakfast was Saturday morning, and apparently, all there's four of them from the graduating class, all going to Maine. So
Hmm.
they got together and took a picture and did a "we are," and I don't know how enthusiastic it was, but it happened. So there's
Yep,
time to practice. We got all summer.
yep, definitely. Um, I'm bantering a little bit here because I just realized there was one thing I haven't fixed yet. So
Oh,
keep
okay. Well,
going.
I'll keep riffing here then, huh? Right.
Yep.
Uh, it's been kind of funny too. We came out of going through like the Tala stuff, but we haven't had a physical investigation in a while. And coming up in a week next weekend, which is
Mhm.
why we're going to talk with Gary and Stacey, with Land and Legend coming to join us. But I'm so excited to get back to the brewery
Hmm.
and really hit the ground again because it's been for me it's been a while. I missed the April investigation. I shouldn't say we haven't. I haven't had an
Right.
investigation at the brewery in a while. I was elsewhere on the 26th, and I know you guys had a pretty active or interesting night. But I just realized it's been a while for
Hmm.
me. And I
Yep.
think we had an issue with the February one and March one, so um, it's been a minute.
Yeah. So, well, and it'll be good because we're bringing another team in to work with us, so that'll be interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and exciting. So, yeah.
So let's catch up to some comments here quick. We have Jenny Davis is with us. Hey everyone. We have Brandon Cooper. Hello, hello, Brandon. And see, we have Jim with us. Jim Bernardo. Hey everybody. Hey Jim. Good to see you. Welcome. And see, Chad, Todd and Carmela are back from Tala, and evening, Chad and Jamie.
Okay.
And another comment there. Hope you're both having a great week so far, and congrats to both kids' college decisions. I want to be clear on this. There's only one kid, so and, and this is I think it's probably time to explain this, right? So
Again.
again, I guess well we explain it in a different setting, but so Chad has two kids and an ex-wife. Okay. His
Hmm.
ex-wife is my current. So his kids and when I say my kids and his kids, they're the same because they swap houses here all
Uh-huh.
the time, which it adds a layer to this dynamic, I guess, at least a little bit, and maybe
Yeah.
strange for some, but it's kind of like the modern family concept.
So,
Um,
and it
and
works. So,
it works. Yeah, works pretty well
so
actually. And so you'll
anyway.
see specifically you'll see Emmett joining both episodes from both home, whatever home they're at that week. But Zoe is the behind the scenes person as a lighting designer and so forth, literally in the theater program, but on the back in the back house. So not coming in front of the camera anytime soon. That's why they waited until the episode was over last week instead of coming in.
Right.
Let us know. So, but it's kind of fun.
So, all right. I think I'm set, Jamie. Sorry about that.
Well, let me finish up the comments here. Bert's here says hello all. Um, Todd and Carmela. FYI, Tala was awesome investigation again. Oh, there were bats. I saw some of this in some of their posts. I may have screamed like a little girl. Okay, no, I'm not going to doubt you on that one. I would have. We have a story about a bat at West Virginia Penitentiary as well. So
Mhm.
It was the biggest bat I've ever seen. It had to be like 12 feet long, wide, whatever they were.
I don't remember it being that big,
It
Jamie.
blocked out the sun. Well, it was dark anyway. Now, get the gist. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the expect the unexpected moment
Mhm.
when you get dive bombed by a bat, and especially if it's dark. What the heck was that? And you're already on alert for being in location. So things happen. And Jim, congratulations, my two dads. Um, it's
Not
something like that.
quite. But anyway,
All right.
um, tonight we're talking with our friends from Land and Legend Paranormal.
Yep.
Stacey Lee is a Reiki Master, Earth Whisperer, and gifted psychic, and the heart behind the Rustic Spirit, a traveling haven of handcrafted metaphysical treasures and healing energy. Gary is a devoted seeker of the unknown, a paranormal investigator deeply immersed in the mysteries of extraterrestrials and the elusive Bigfoot. Drawn together by fate and a shared calling, they formed Land and Legend Paranormal, a sacred alliance devoted to assisting those touched by spirits and cryptid alike. When not walking between worlds, they invite others into their own realm through Becoming Enchanted with the Rustic Spirit, their podcast. So let's bring in Stacey and Gary.
Woo-hoo. Hey guys.
You didn't do the applause this time,
No,
Jamie.
I'm sorry. I was going the wrong way here. I got to click a button. Hold on. Ta-da! I almost hit the wrong button too. That would have been the air horn, like that. So sorry. All right, guys, welcome. Thanks for coming in tonight. How y'all doing?
We are
Good.
good. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good, yes,
Of
thank you.
course.
Well, sure. We got some stuff coming up together, so we figured why not get to hang out and see what's going on.
I know. I'm actually really excited to wanted to work with you. And where's Gary? There's Jenny up there with her comment. They actually it's an inside joke. They have T-shirts because and you guys will learn this. And I've had to like coach him multiple times. Like we are helping to lead this investigation. You cannot wander off. Um, he's a wanderer, and so is Jenny. So we're out investigating, and we don't know where Jenny is. We don't know where Gary is, and we're like, "Where's Jenny? Where's Jenny? Where's Gary?" And so I had shirts made that he has one that says "Where's Jenny," and Jenny has one that says "Where's Gary." Mine says "Where's Gary" and Jenny. So it's
Jamie,
but
it sounds like we know not to team Gary up with, which is Jerry, who does the same thing at our investigations.
Yeah, we know a lot about this. We lose Jerry all the time, and
you always have one. You always have the
yeah,
one.
just
Yeah.
that one. Yep.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we always have to like tell them to stay with your people. You know,
we're investing in AirPods for them, Stacey. So maybe that's a way to
yeah, air tags. Yep,
air
absolutely.
air
There you
tag.
go. Air tags.
Yeah.
We'll
Where are
get
they
to get
at?
a, get to get a
He's usually in
two-pack.
the darkest, scariest corner that no one else wants to go. That's
Yeah.
usually where he's
That's Jerry as well. So perfect.
at.
Kindred spirits right there.
Kindred spirits, definitely. Jenny's usually off taking pictures. She's a photographer.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's usually off, with some artistic venture in her brain with a shot that she wants to get. So,
Yep. I understand that. I get that.
And
So,
that's
yeah.
Chad. So yeah,
yeah. So,
there is literally one in every group, or two maybe.
You know what? Do you notice that, like in paranormal teams, there are just I don't want to say stigmas but there's certain characters that
Mhm.
each person plays and roles and
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
everybody. You're right. You're right. And um, you know, it doesn't matter how big the team is either. Tight, small group or large. Everybody has that kind of place, and you know, it, we're all in this for the same reasons. We're trying to
mhm.
understand things that we don't explain things we can't understand or don't know, learn things that we haven't gotten before, and like that's the whole part of it. But it takes a little bit of everybody's nuances to get there, and the skills, talents, and traits that everybody brings. It's really cool, and it always works. So
And it makes it fun because you like to have these different personalities, and then you have a good time because yes, we're there to get the evidence and to find the answers to the mysteries of the unknown, but we're also there to have a good time and to be a community together, and um, it's for fun as well.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the key word to what you just said there was personalities. 'Cause there are definitely a lot of them in a good way, in a very good way.
Yes. Yes.
You know you found your people when you're in the paranormal.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
So,
Absolutely. You got to accept all of them.
so what got you guys into the paranormal? Everybody has a story. Stacey, do you want to start and let us what dragged you into this?
Oh, I've been in it my entire life. Not investigating my entire life, but it's always been part of my life. My family was, we were a believer. I grew up in a family that was very open to spirits. I grew up Catholic, so it was Irish Catholic, so there was a lot of demons around. Um, everything was a demon, but kind of grew up in understanding like that we just live in the spirit realm, and I was able to see and hear spirits, smell things, and so it was very accepted. And I never faced what a lot of psychics do, where they get condemned or shut down. So that it's always been my in my background. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until, and I would do a little things like I was always exploring as a child. I remember we had like a bunch of urban legends. There was a covered bridge, and the myth was if you drive the covered bridge in the middle of the night, you turn your lights off, your car's going to move. So we were always out there doing those type of things, and finding those urban legends and finding the local ghosts. And then life got in the way, and I stopped. And it wasn't until I met Gary again that we realized we both had a passion together with it. And we had our first together experience, which kind of sent us on this journey. Do you want me to say it, or do you want to talk about the together experience at the orphanage?
Yeah, go ahead. I
So
was trying to figure out which one you were talking about.
we are lovers of history, so we ended up going to Gettysburg. We like early in our dating years. We've been together 10 years, and I want to say about a year into it, we started going and hanging out in Gettysburg, and doing the Gettysburg things. And that's we ended up going to the orphanage for one of their nighttime investigation tours. It was not just like a daytime tour. And we were video recording. He, of course, is wandering into the pit. I don't know if you've ever been to the orphanage, but he's going into the pit. But right as we started, we were recording the lady talking and giving us the rundown in the history. And we didn't notice until later when we got home, and I'm listening to watching the video, listening to the audio. Within like 30 seconds as the video started, you get this, "We're bad," these kids singing it, like class A EVP.
Mhm.
And we've been watching the shows, we've been doing all the things, and just really had an enthusiasm for it, but never was like, oh, we're investigators. And then that we got hooked. We're like, now we're going to go find all the evidence, and go to all the places, and do all the things. And it really hooked us getting that class A EVP at the orphanage. So that's kind of how him and I got our start together.
Cool. So Gary, what's your background? What brought you into it? I mean, obviously you were doing it before you met Stacey.
Like, I was always into the UFO thing and Bigfoot.
He got
At a
me into the
younger,
cryptid.
yeah, at a younger age, I would see things, but I really never paid no mind to it. It didn't bother me, but it was like, yeah, okay, you know what I mean. Until we got together and then it just made me want to go out and start investigating. I would always often like see things. So it was kind of always there.
Gary has a gift too. He just doesn't.
Yeah, I don't.
He doesn't advertise it like I
No,
do.
I don't. I don't. But yeah, it was always there. But yeah, I think the orphanage with us is kind of what really made me want to go out and do things more.
Okay.
Tell me about that experience you had in your apartment before we met, and that's how we one of the things we connected when he told me this experience about that seeing the lady who had just died right in the end of your bed. Remember?
Oh yeah. There was a fire down the road, and I mean I've seen stuff before this when I was a little younger than this happened. I was probably about 21, 22. There was a fire down the road, and I didn't I didn't know any of this. I knew the fire was there, and this woman, I guess, tried to get out of her house and actually burned to death. And it was a couple days later, and I was laying there in bed, and I was sleeping, and just something woke me up, and I lifted my head, and I looked in the doorway, and there was this woman, maybe like Stacy's height, but a little taller, but around her height, a little more voluptuous. And here to find out, it was the lady down the road that had burned to death. And I could see her plain as day, but it was dark in the room, so I couldn't see like details.
Right.
You know, it was there. That wasn't my first time, but that's kind of like really, I think, was a jump start then. And then I don't know, several years after that's when I met Stacey and told her about it. And I would tell her things all the time. And she would think I'm crazy sometimes. And then she started bringing
he just
hers
thought I
back
thought
out.
he was crazy.
But that was an instance there. Like I say, I was seeing stuff before that. I don't know. It's kind of always been there.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, it was. I think it was there, but I really maybe didn't pay much mind to it because it was just. It was like nothing to me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I think it was the magic was when we got together, and you know, we were supposed to meet. It like that whole story. That's for another day. But when we got together, it developed in that it sparked both of our abilities back again, and brought us to where we are now. You know, and doing this stuff together.
It's interesting how another person's abilities can help grow your abilities, isn't it? Like, and it sounds like that's what's happened with you guys. Like your two sets of abilities have helped develop each other's, and that's sort of cool. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, she said like I'm into the UFO and Bigfoot things.
He's always chasing the UFOs.
I've seen things very close to the ground and the sky. So that always.
I wasn't on board with it at first. I really was like, until I had my first experience with it. And I'm like, I always believed. Yes, I believed. I you know, not that we're the only ones in the universe. I don't believe that we are the only ones, but I never really believed that they were here. You know, I was like, oh, they're just living on some other planet over there doing their thing. And until like he started showing me things and showing all this stuff, and then I had my first experience, and I'm like, I couldn't debunk it. I was like, and I was with him. And I'm like, okay, all right, I believe you now.
That sounds really interesting. May have to hang out with you some times here, Gary.
Yeah.
Well, sky watching.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I say this all the time,
guys. He's got a laser that he points up there and a big light and all that stuff. And
I say this all the time. You got to go outside sometimes and just look up. You know, and we don't do the first part often enough anymore. We don't go outside enough. You know, like spend that time in you know, not even in nature, just being in our, you know, our properties, looking around. And then, you know, the night sky is obviously, it doesn't have to be nighttime, but the night sky obviously gives away a lot of things because it's dark and everything against it. But it's lighter, you can tell it's there. But yeah, you really do see amazing things. And you know, Gary, I'm sure you noticed this too. But you know, the East Coast is kind of light polluted, so you know you have to get out away from things. You know, the towns and the cities to get a good night sky. But when you see it, man, it's just like it's amazing just how many stars there are, how big everything is. It's so cool.
We go up to a cabin in the mountains near It's Woodward. It's near outside of Penn State College.
Okay.
And like there's no light pollution up there. It's a Bald Eagle State Park.
Okay.
And it's like things that you see up there. And then Outer Banks, when we stayed on the Outer Banks, the same way. Like we saw some things that, like looking up one night at the Outer Banks, it was like, what is that?
Yeah. And I've seen things when I was younger, coming back from archery hunting, and we're not far from TMI and
Sure.
stuff like that, and
Mhm.
we're kind of in a little bit of a hot spot, very close to the ground, and so oh yeah. I mean, not all of them's like just looking way up and going, oh yeah, what I've seen a couple things very close. So
Sure.
Okay, I am suffering with some poison something on my skin, and I'm itchy a lot. So if you see me just like moving around and yeah, I got lots of itchies right now.
Okay.
It's that time of year. It's come out and it's
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time in the woods. So
yeah. Well, you were camping this past weekend, I believe, correct? You were out at an
we
event.
were at the May Day Ferry Festival, yes, and it was at Rocky Point State Park, which is in Essex, Maryland. And apparently, they are very into letting nature do what nature wants to do. And there was just like ravens like running through this patch of like low growing like stuff, and I'm like, oh, she's having fun. Look, that's where she likes to go poop. So I'm like going in there with her and she getting all over, and then someone's like, yeah, that's Virginia creeper. I'm not allergic to poison ivy, but apparently I'm allergic to Virginia creeper. I think that's what it was called or something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're going through that, but
thank you.
so was it a good event then? Other
It
than
was
that?
amazing. It was amazing.
it's always
Frolicking with
good
the
down there.
fairies, doing it's just one of those events that are just very like they the event started 33 years ago, so the 33rd one, with a group of friends that just got together to celebrate Beltane May Day, with their own little celebration of the farm in Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. And then which that grew into what it is today, and they still like, this isn't about making money, it isn't about any of that, it's about just getting a group of people together. And now a very large, like 10,000 to 20,000 people come to this event, a very large group of people together to celebrate the coming of summer, and Beltane, and bringing in the fairy realm to help grow and all of those elemental type properties. But they feed us. The vendor fees are very low. It's very hard to get into. It took me 5 years to get into them. And you can just tell it's one of those events that people are just there to have a good time. It's not about, making money.
So one of our listeners, Heather, put this comment about when I was little, my family camped at Woodward. My dad tells me stories about the crazy things they've seen in the sky there. One time, fighter jets were checking out the objects that were in the sky.
Really, in Woodward. Oh, I got chills. Yeah, I've never seen the fighter jets, but yeah, there is a lot of crazy things in the sky there. Like, they're crazy, and not just alien. There's a lot of cryptid like noises you hear at night, and because you're in the middle of nowhere, middle of Amish country, no phone signal, no nothing. And I know Woodward Camp, so if she's talking about Woodward Camp, which is on, I guess it's that Woodward Road. I don't know what the name of the road is, but by Woodward Cave, we're right down from Woodward Cave. The cabin is what, about a mile on the left from Woodward Cave, so right by the maple syrup place.
When there are no addresses, you use landmarks, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
cave.
It really,
cave,
I don't.
the syrup shop. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
this is like boondock camping. Like, it's the water's fed from the mountain coming down. It's definitely roughing it. It's not your glamping. It's not glamping. I mean, there's a cabin there, but it's definitely a very artistic, put together cabin. So
very artistic.
yeah. Heather said same place. I see it. You guys both try to.
We both clicked stuff at the same time. Sorry, Chad.
That's all right.
I paused even to wait for you to do it.
So Heather says yes.
I got it on my phone, so I didn't see it on here.
Yeah, fair enough.
So cool.
Well, I have a question for you then. All right. So considering that, you're seeing oddity things in the night sky, and there are sounds from cryptids, did you ever consider making the connection that they are the same? Like, that's one of the things I think we miss sometimes, like the fact that an unusualness of something and Bigfoot's a great example. It's the world's best, hide and seek player ever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what if it's just not here on a regular basis and it comes and goes, and we have something
Interdimensional.
that they like here, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
we're the stop for dessert after dinner, you know, so or something like that around the universe. And I've always wondered that, you know, and it's
Mm-hmm.
to my mind at least it makes sense, you know, whether it's a UFO, whether it's a portal of some kind or something, you know, there's just because we would find something by now with all the time we've spent out and all the energies we've been, you know, we all as a collective have created
Yeah.
around it. You'd think we'd find something more,
And why are all the photos blurry?
right? Exactly.
I, well, like
Yeah.
Bigfoot, I feel there's both in the flesh and the cryptid part. You know, because they say a lot of people say where you see the UFO sightings, you know, there's Bigfoot sightings. I don't know. I
There's a
feel
lot of
there's both.
correlation.
I feel there's
Yeah.
both flesh and, you know, the cryptid part, whatever you want to call it. That's my opinion. Because,
Okay.
like, you know, like
Mine's a little different, but
seeing
yeah.
like UFOs and stuff, the ones that I've seen close to the ground, you know, one was like pretty much in the city. One was kind of out in the country. When I mean say close, I mean like we're talking less than 300 feet off the ground. Um, I don't know. I feel there's both. That's just my opinion.
Mhm.
So
I
I
get with
feel there
that.
might be a correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Well, you know,
Yeah.
if you go up to the north and you get into like the northern tier of the U.S. and it's certainly into Canada, you know, the concept of the Wendigo comes in that area.
Oh, don't say that out loud.
Too late, I already did. So, but
Oh,
the idea that this is a spirit as much as it is a physical thing is part of the first people's culture. I won't say it again, I promise. Uh, you know, the idea of that is already there. So why wouldn't it be true elsewhere if it's believed to be? Yeah, I think that's a
mhm.
fascinating concept.
It is.
It's
And
not going to stop
I
you from
kind of
going
have a
looking anymore either, though. You know, like
yeah,
that's part of it, but
yeah. I kind of have a similar belief. I
it
have
may
a Native
never.
American background. Yeah, my grandmother's Cherokee. So I have a Native American background, and a lot of my workings are shamanic. So, you know, there's a heart of me. Like I call in Bigfoot almost as a protector of the forest and protector of the land. And I feel like that him and other cryptids, they're very elemental type creatures
that's the word I was looking for.
that have come in, have been invoked by different um, tribes and different things like that. That would be here, and then I know in other countries there's indigenous that have done the same. Like I have a druid background too, because you know my grandfather was Irish, so we kind of have both. And so you have like there's things that were there that they would invoke and bring into the land to protect. So is Bigfoot just a elemental creature, just like a fairy, just like a dryad, just like you know all of the other things that have so many different names. And you know my biggest thing is like, oh, you might laugh at me for this one, but I always ask people this: Mothman, that's my favorite cryptid. Isn't Mothman? Wouldn't he just be a big fairy? You know, it's
Maybe, yeah.
Mothman a fairy, part of the dark fairy realm, but a big fairy. You know, like so. I have a more I want to say romantic. I don't know romantic or um, elemental type view for the cryptids. As for aliens, they do have more of that interdimensional, um, ancient alien type knowledge, where they're star beings, like that they are part of this collective energy of who we all are, and they have been here, and you know that is I think that is more along with the belief that I have for those. If they're a connection, possibly. We found it yet? No, but
Hmm.
I do think there's some sort of connection. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a really cool way of thinking, explaining some of these things like that. I hadn't made, I'm dabbling a little bit in it, but haven't made some of these bigger connections. So it's interesting being enlightened on it. So,
Mm-hmm. So we can classify you as like a reptilian. No. I don't know if you've like, there's a holistic gathering that I do that, very much believe in starseeds and very much believe that, like, I had Tim Conwell on my podcast, and he's into that train of thought, like, very much into the thought that these are, that the aliens are more this conscious energy of different type from different planets that have come and bred with us, and we all have part of that star seeds, so to speak. Very woo woo. It is very woo woo when you start getting into it.
Yeah.
It very is.
Yeah. The more I dig into ancient, like our ancient history on Earth and what's there, and like how some of these things were done, it's like how was that possible?
And some of the hieroglyphs and the stone, the cave carvings, like,
and the fact that there's cave carvings from this side of the world, cave carvings from Europe that are so similar. There was no way that, to our knowledge, that they were traveling back and forth these thousands of miles, but yet these symbols are so similar. How did it happen? There has to be some sort of connection like that.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pyramids. I mean,
or Easter Island, like, there's so much more than the pyramids of these
right.
structures that have been built with these mathematical concepts that we do not, like, barely have the knowledge today to do.
The latest one that I saw was a solid marble stone that was drilled out, was cored out perfectly.
Perfect circle. I know
Perfect
what you're talking
circle.
about, yeah.
In a time, and the core was perfect. They had both pieces in a time that copper tools were the only tooling that they had. So, like, how is that possible? It just,
I don't know if I was watching Ancient Aliens one time or one of the other ones, and if I remember vaguely, it wasn't above ground. It was kind of like, I'm gonna say cavish, because it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it was like this marble-ish type stone, and it was smooth, and they brought these experts in and had these squares, and everything was like perfect, and like they were, like you just said, they don't know how they could have did that, thousands of years ago, perfect to the T, and it's like, yeah, there's got to be some kind of correlation there.
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you get a thought, Jamie? I can tell.
This type of conversation invokes a lot of thought. Like, there's a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers.
Hey, Jamie, we can't hear you. You're muted.
I knew that. Just testing you.
You said earlier you always have problems with your audio.
No, it was me. I'm in my office in our house, and the kitchen's not too far away, and someone's banging some dishes around. And I'm like, oh, of course, So muted to avoid the noise. Now forgot I was there. Okay, so deep thought. Okay, it circles me back to my thought, and a curious question is, how or why or when did you decide to do your own podcast, The Rustic Spirit? How did you get there?
So he's just been along for the ride. I had a bunch of people, like, kind of suggest it. One of my first degrees, I went to school for mass communications. I started school as mass communications. I wanted to be a journalist. And I learned, I did the first year, and I had a journalist teacher said, this isn't the field for you. Basically, and, like, broke my heart because I wanted so bad to be an investigative journalist. And so it's always kind of been I've always wanted to have some type of radio show or podcast and stuff like that. So I was doing lives, and I was doing like my lives would turn into just not like live readings. It would be a lot of like conversations and talking about these topics. And I'm like, I really enjoy this. And I forget who, it might have been Pam Barry that suggested that I do it, from the Hoover House. I'm pretty sure it might have been Pam that suggested, hey, why don't you just do it? And she kind of encouraged me, and gave me that push that I needed. I believe, I'm almost certain it was her. It was a couple other people as well. But she's the one that sticks out most in my mind. Like just do it. Just go do it. If it fails, it fails. And I'm seeing other people do it, and I'm not trying to copy, but I'm like, well, if they can do it, like maybe I have something to bring to this too, and kind of made it my own. It's evolved it's been about a year and a half now I've been doing it. And it's evolved and changed a couple times. And, I had a prior co-host, and that didn't work out. And then I tried by myself, and then I decided to bring Gary on as my co-host. But I love hearing from people. I love talking to people. And hearing different knowledge and different stories. And, but I also like encouraging others, and I like bringing people on and help promote them and help bring them to, I've had people on that are very nervous to come on and talk about what they do. And I'm like, just do it. Come on. We're very laid back. Like, just to help put other people out there and build others up, kind of a community type of thing. So I think that's where that comes from. He, like I said, he just kind of follows along. It's definitely more my thing than his thing. He's just the face of it. He's the beauty.
About beauty. Yeah,
I've listened to
leave me alone.
episodes trying to lead up to this, and I got that as you described it. I really got that from it. The conversational sense. You have a good perspective of just let's just talk. And I say this all the time, but when sometimes you just need to listen, but sometimes you need to hear. And when you're at an investigation, sometimes it's best just to sit and be quiet and let the place come to you, that you're at, and let it tell you its secrets instead of trying to ask for things. This is a dog and pony show. That way, like do that for me. Like these aren't trained monkeys. So, the idea though that what I've gathered at least from the 3 or 4 episodes, I haven't heard them all. I'm sorry, I'll get there. I will. But the idea that you kind of have a community, and it's nice when you can bring in people that are like-minded, and those who know you, because it's comfortable, and even for that person who's nervous, you bring the comfort then. And I was really impressed, and I think you're doing it right. So congratulations,
Thank you.
And please keep going.
That means so much to me. Thank you so much. Because many times I've ready to throw in the towel, and be like, no, this isn't it. But it really has become my heart and soul. Like, and I really enjoy it, and not so much. It's more just like I said about that community, that friendship. That let's have a chat, and having a good time on a Thursday evening. Sometimes I do go on Tuesdays, depending on my. So sorry. Sometimes I do overlap with you guys.
Okay.
But depending on my guest availability.
Yeah, early and usually about off when they're coming on.
Yeah. So that's something that I always like. I want different people. I want different perspectives. I want to hear it all. I want to soak in knowledge. I'm a knowledge seeker. And so I love that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Well, none of us are the authority of everything. And I think it's important that we share each other. This is the community part of it. This is why we're doing our event with you. The whole unity thing of just bringing different perspectives. We've investigated Bube's Brewery for years and years, and I don't know, 100 and some odd times now, well over 100 times. For myself, and I'm sure I missed a couple events here and there. So but we don't know it all. And it would be I'd be a fool to say that I do by any means, regardless of how many years I've been at it, whether it's 20 years or 5 years or, whatever.
Right.
You can always learn from someone else, and you just have to be willing. You have to listen. You have to, engage and put the work in. But there's something for everyone when you're with someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's always someone brings people to bring different things to the table every time. there's always different evidence. There's always different perspectives and views that if you're willing to keep your eyes open and heart open to see those, it can help us all grow, and help us really know and understand the mysteries. So
here's a good question that Heather, no, you didn't miss this. Heather wants to know, how do you know Jott-Nyx? So how did
I got trapped with Melissa on a bus looking for the alba twitch, and I thought I was going to die. No.
Not because of Melissa.
We've all had similar experiences with her.
No, seriously. I've known Jott-Nyx. I've seen you guys. I've followed, like Boobies has always been something like I said, we've gone there a lot of times, just to have dinner and drinks. And, we did one of our anniversary dates, down in the catacombs. And, it's always been a spot for us that we've enjoyed. And it was, so I always, okay, like, who's the team here? And so I started following you guys and just kind of like keeping the thing out. And then we did Alba Twitch last year. And I think Melissa and I might have already been friends on Facebook, just through connections of other people. Mm-hmm. And I was already following Jott-Nyx. And then we did that Alba Twitch. And we ended up doing the tour together and realized that she's now my spirit animal. We have very similar energy. And so Rick took us down into the dungeons of the marketplace, and we're in there and we're sneaking off, like let's go to our, he's got the group of people, but we're like going down the dark corners and doing our own thing. I was like, yep, this is my people.
So Gary was influencing you there?
Yeah. So, and it was like, this is my people. I just felt a connection, and I guess that's where it's all led from there. So
yeah,
we tried to meet up with her and do something, but our schedules never match.
I remember hearing the exact same story from Melissa shortly after that. So, and I've run into you at several Paracons and different things where, it's always great to stop by and say hi and just talk and chat with you, because it's always a great experience. So,
yes, exactly. And sometimes I can be very like shy, believe it or not, and reserved. Like, okay, do I want to go up to this person? Do I want to say hello? How are they going to perceive me? And,
mm-hmm.
Because I can be a lot. There's a lot in this little package. I'm sorry. He has to deal with it.
Yeah. So, that was a good question and great background. So I appreciate that. So, yeah.
Yes. She's amazing. You guys are too. I love what you guys do. And the more I followed you, the more I started seeing things. I started realizing, like, you guys are kind of the real deal. It's more about that community for you guys and having a good time, but also finding those answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you gotta get out and do stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not advocating people go and spend every weekend in the field and dropping a paycheck on events that you have to go to. But the more you can get out and connect with people, the more you realize that you're not alone, and there are so many. You find your people, you find your group, yeah. And next thing you know, like we joke about this a lot, but a couple years ago, Chad was interested in the paranormal but didn't know how to do it. So I bought him a ticket to one of our events as a birthday present. Mm-hmm. And the next month, there he was again on his own dime, on his own ticket. And the next month, and the next month, and finally, he's like a lost puppy, in a good way. And I said to Melissa, I said, we probably should talk to him about this, and here we are, 2 years later, 3 years later, I forget how long it's been anymore, but it's what happens. You make that connection. And, again, we in the field, I think a lot of times we're considered to be strange to people who don't get it, and it's kind of that way in my house, at least, the funniest thing I may have ever said was I was told going out to an investigation not to bring anyone home with me. And I said, well, what about the ones that are already here? And that look, I don't think I'll ever forget. This is also why you buy a comfortable couch.
I know that look, Jamie.
Yes, you do.
Well, I'm all about, like, okay, let's invest. We have a very old home. lots of things going on here, and I want to investigate. And I've done a little bit, but he's like, nope, no investigation in the home.
No.
Do you guys investigate your home? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
No, but like
No, same
I,
story. Yeah.
I don't live I live in a modern townhouse, which doesn't mean there's nothing here. But like my dad lives in the farmhouse, an old farmhouse, 1860s farmhouse that I grew up in that house, and he still lives there. He will not let me investigate there while he's still living there. And it was haunted. We know it's haunted. He had tons of experiences. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm doing an episode on the experiences that different people have had there.
Oh, wow.
But
Where's it at?
Nope.
Can I ask?
It's south of Gettysburg. It's a town called Littlestown.
I know Littlestown. I work in Littlestown. So I have a client in Littlestown.
Oh, well, that's where I grew up, and yeah.
Okay.
So I'll tell you off air where his house is, because you may drive by it. So
I probably do, and I probably have. There's been a couple places that I've been driving through. I'm like, ooh, yeah. But we'll talk about that afterwards. Yeah.
So yeah,
he that's just, how we are.
No investigating the house while he's still around.
Mm-hmm. And that's how he is. We've had a couple. We always throw parties because we're big about community and friends and having a good time. So we throw parties different times of the year, and we had friends over here, and I would sneak off and we'd investigate a little bit. And had a friend have a psychic attack down in our basement, and I think that's when Gary's like, "Done, we're done."
I didn't even want it to happen that night. I was outside in the fire, and I ended up going there. And I'm like, "What the are you doing? Like, not in our own like." I've seen shit in our own house, seen stuff in our own house. I don't want to investigate it and provoke any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like, no, not near.
I got the sage. We're fine.
Like, I just don't agree with it. Like, no, because you got to live here. You know what I mean? It's like, no.
Yeah.
Like I see, seen things here, and I'm fine with that. Just let it be. Just
yep,
it's fine.
Yep. So, yeah,
that's one of the early things I learned too, is never investigate your place. And I was like, well, why not? And I haven't, so I follow that policy. But you kind of, people have been dying for thousands of years, right? So spirits are around us. It's I think it's a fair statement to make. And you're cohabitating, so why wouldn't you want to know? But in the same way, then it changes your dynamic just ever so much. And the status quo.
It does, but then you have, like, my argument is, like, you have bed and breakfast owners like the Hoover House who live on location, but also consistently investigate every weekend with different people coming in and stuff like that. So I'm like, how is that different? Like they do it. Why can't we do?
They have people do it. They don't do it.
Yeah, people do it for them, right? But they share details, right? Like as far as who investigated, they'll share it with them. What they came across. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is technically different, and it's no different that way than like like a ghost hunters show or something where they would do a residential and then they would meet with the homeowner after and share. You're aware, but you didn't participate. So I guess there is that separation.
It is, yeah. I guess, yeah, you're right. So, that does make sense.
So Bert has a comment here. He says, "I don't want outside spirits seeing we can hear them and bombard us."
Yeah. Do you want to open the gates?
Right.
Basically, so to speak.
But that's saying that they don't see you when you're out going investigating at Boobies or Tala or something like that. So what's the difference? Because because the spirit world isn't confined to one place, at least in my opinion.
Sure.
Well, so let me go deeper with that aspect. As someone who has experienced this in her home. It's a difference when, like we were talking about, when outside people come in and investigate, then you live here, you're here every day, your energy's here every day. So are your emotions. And emotions, some spirits or elementals can feed off of that. So you have what, everybody has their own opinion on what a poltergeist is. But, there are, like I have a teenage daughter and I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm going out of the hormones are going this way for me and they're coming in for her. So we have had poltergeist because of it, and it creates this own type of energy of, my belief on poltergeist is more of a self-created haunting. And when you get your emotions kind of in check and in control, it kind of helps with that. Some of the private cases we've done, I've seen a lot of emotions that have more of it. Let's do some therapy and we're going to help you, and the haunting goes away. So yeah, I can see when I'm going to admit that, yeah, maybe investigating our own home ourselves could feed into something like that and create more of that poltergeist type activity.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sounds in the realm, at least, too, of a tulpa, with the emotional energy
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
that's fascinating. That's like totally a different dynamic even there than a poltergeist. It's a deeper
Yes.
connection because it's personalized.
Very personal. So maybe I am like Tulpa poltergeist. So maybe it is to me, and this might be my lack of knowledge where I kind of correlate the both as the same thing, but people call them different names, but
Sure.
maybe it
Sure.
is.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like saying you want a soda, you say Coke. I get it. And
Yeah.
no challenge to it at all. But
Mhm.
it's amazing though what we can create as
Mhm.
as much as we think there are things around us. Sometimes we place our energies forward enough to
Exactly.
present that opportunity as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother
Again,
game then.
we have taken on a couple private cases. The recent one we had close to us, and it was a grief situation. The person, I'm not giving any details away, but the person was going through some grief, really struggling with that, and kind of created his own haunting in a sense. Not just seeing things that weren't there, but also creating like almost this emotional. Our brains are very powerful, and when our emotions get involved, we can create things that. I mean, it was there. The thing was there, so it wasn't like fake. He wasn't just imagining it, but it was definitely once we helped him kind of process the grief and do some honoring of the dead. It kind of dwindled and went away. And was it the honoring, or was it the fact that he accepted the loss that helped him move on, and then the haunting, you know, went away?
Wow. Bird's comment here. We've seen a shadow figure in our home, but we are not opening that door. We say, "Did you see that?" But we let it alone.
Well, and that's sort of that, not feeding it the energy to make it more viable. And so, which is, that's a choice that people get to make. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you have
Yeah,
different types of hauntings. You have the residual hauntings. You have the active
Mm-hmm.
hauntings. So some of the residual feeds off that energy.
see
Yeah.
right there, like that comment there, like if yeah, you see it, but what if you accepted it and fed into it? Could it make it worse? And what if it's not a nice thing? You know what I mean? Like that's why I don't want to do our own house. It's
Right.
like I've seen a little boy here. I've seen, so it's like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I just I
Well,
don't, I
that
don't
makes a lot of sense when you're saying you don't know what that energy is, and if you're feeding it more energy, what can it turn into?
yes,
So,
yes, and it's like that's like when the story Stacey was telling you about the gentleman down in our basement. And next time he came over, I'd put my foot down. I said, "Look, we are not." I'm telling you, we are not.
mhm.
And we haven't. It's like
So
that's
you know,
touchy, man.
to
When you're
play
doing your own
to
house,
play devil's advocate, or to bring up open a can of worms, however you want to say it, like you have these places like Boobies, the Hoover House, the Doss House, the Tala, that are welcoming investigators in who have different personalities and different styles of investigating. That you know, I'm going to call out. There are some that aren't just that investigate rather differently, and maybe not so kind and nice, and kind of provoke spirits. So it's like, we don't want to do it in our own home, but we'll go to these other places and do it. So like
because we don't have to live with it.
But
We
then the
leave
people that
there.
live there do have to live with it.
Right.
But maybe them people there, like we just say, don't pay really no mind to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it doesn't
right.
actually provoke it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I don't know. I just don't agree with it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
There's a different thing to that though too. Like with not all of us are at the same place in the process of acceptance. You know, when like Gary, I like where you're at with this. Like, you know, I think you're keeping the walls up on it is you know, it's protection. It's
Mhm.
just keeping things at arm's length.
Yeah.
You know, others may not feel that way. They may welcome whatever may come, and that's a totally different dynamic then, and that's a choice. Like everybody makes those kind of choices.
Mhm.
You know, I kind of look at it like this, I guess, that like the paranormal is kind of like online dating. So the spirits, you know, they have a profile, right? And we think it's this person, but until we actually meet them and get to, you know, to
Mhm.
there, they may
Yes.
not be who they present to be. And
Mhm.
Yes.
that where you're at with this, that distance allows you to get to that place safer than it would be if you just welcome them into your house right away, you know, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I mean, I'm being cynical, I know that, but you know,
No,
we
yeah,
don't
what you're
know
saying
who
makes
we're
sense,
talking
you
to.
know?
We can't see that person. We're just trusting that the call and response issues, whatever way we're connecting, we're trusting that they're presenting who they really are at the way they
Mhm.
are. And
Mhm.
you know, that's a whole
Yeah.
lot of this, right? It's trust. And we trust each other, you know, to do this safely as well while we're out in the field. And it it just strikes me every once in a while that man, we really just don't know. And we may never truly know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, I've brought things home already, and it wasn't bad, but I've already brought things home, you
Yeah.
know?
It happens.
Yeah, but I didn't do it on purpose. You know,
Yeah,
Right.
but you didn't want to get rid
well,
of
I
it.
didn't want to get rid of it because there was a purpose
I had to
behind it.
sage him in his sleep.
But it wasn't a bad thing, and you know why? Because of where I might have been working at the time,
I
and where I
know.
was at.
Yes.
But I did
But he
bring them
invited.
home.
He and just like
I didn't invite it. It
you
attached to me,
no,
and I
you
was like,
invited
letting
it.
it go.
No, I was there. You said, "Hey, you want to come with me and see what I do?" And because he had a correlation with what this spirit had and what he does for a living, and we cannot talk about it because of what he did for a living. But so he invited it, just like at
Kinda, yeah.
Samuel Miller Mansion when I was there the last time. I spoke the wrong words. Your words tell you. Instead of saying I'm open to communicating to you right now, I said I'm opening myself up to you, and then I have like heart attack symptoms.
That's a big
I almost
difference.
It's a
stopped
huge
it
difference,
before.
right?
I knew that was bad.
Well,
Yeah.
and it was just a mix of words. I was tired. It was the end of the night. I had done an event in Gettysburg and then come to Samuel Miller, an hour and 10 minutes back to Samuel Miller to do an investigation, um, and exhausted. It was our very last spot we were in, and I heard it. I have tells, and I had the ringing in my ear, and I knew, okay, this is a male spirit trying to talk to me. And I usually say, hey, okay, I'm opening lines of communication for you, for us to have a conversation. And I didn't. I said, I'm opening myself up to you. And it was like, okay.
Right.
All it
I
takes.
almost stopped her that night because I had already picked up on it, and she started walking to where I already knew what happened, but I was tired too, and I was like, nah, let her go. Now I was like, I wish I would have stopped
It
her,
didn't
but
come home with me. I know how to
no.
handle myself when those type of things happen. Yes. I
Mhm.
took a break. I went outside. I cleansed myself. We got, it
Yeah.
was fine. And that's how I know, like, I can handle whatever comes my way.
Well, just to give you a warning, some of the booby spirits have been known to go home with our investigators. So
You're not taking anything home. I don't take shit home.
I'm
He
not.
does.
Yeah, but I only did it one time, and that was just because of what I did and where we were at.
yeah,
That's
so
why. There was a
so
correlation there, like Stacey said. That was the only reason why.
yeah. Heather and Stacy, so Heather's a sensitive as well. So this may ring a little more. Explain that a little more. She said, I just do not need anyone trying to communicate with me when I'm in my home. I need my home to be calm. I have enough craziness going on in my head all day long. Just do not need that exhausting energy after a long day.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I think I hear the static in the background, so it's always there. So I feel like if I talk to it and I can console it and give it what it needs, it will
Mhm.
go for me. I think that we're, like I said, all us sensitives, all us psychics, we're different in how we communicate and what we feel.
Mhm.
So
And that's why para unity is so important, so we can learn from each other.
very much
So
so.
we're tying it all back together again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So Stacey, tell us a little bit about the Rustic Spirit, because I know that's your business, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, it itself has evolved throughout time as well. I'm looking down on my Facebook and I just saw Bob Corbett just came on. He actually was one of my fellow when I had a storefront in a flea market. He was one of the fellow store owners there. Um, so I started with it was around COVID, and I started making jewelry. And I after, like I said earlier, I did that stint with mass communications. I went into retail management and ended up, getting my first degree in business. And so I was always into retail. And then so I ended up started making jewelry, and I'm like, well, I can sell this. And I started selling jewelry, and it was crystal jewelry. And but with that metaphysical healing intent, it was always about let's heal, and offering Reiki, offering readings. And then it's involved into making candles, and then I sell sage and stuff like that. So it's all this, everything's handcrafted. Everything I do, besides the smudge bundles and incense, I outsource those. I make myself, and it's all with intention. My candles are with intention. That's where my focus is right now. The candles are kind of blowing up in my face, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting wholesale orders. So I think that's where a lot of my attention is going. So it's been my passion. Storefront didn't work, so I went on the road and going to different festivals and different shows, and I set up and I sell my stuff, and I offer Reiki and I offer readings, um, and that's kind of where it all started. It's a place to come to get healing in many different aspects.
Cool.
That's very cool. And do you? I think I like gleaned this from listening to your podcast, but like every weekend you're somewhere.
Pretty much.
It's like
We're
that's
slowing
obviously
down
it's
a
probably
bit.
seasonal a bit, but
Yeah, seasonal. Fall and spring and fall is
okay.
big. Like month of May, I'm somewhere every month. Month of October, I'm somewhere every month. After that, it's more sporadic. I do offer Reiki healing and sessions and readings out of my home, and I do readings virtually. I have a strong clientele base that comes to my house. That I have a studio here that I do Reiki and readings for. And then I have a website, therusticspirit.com, where people can buy any of my merchandise and any things I make there. So that is kind of how it's evolved into, our economy is not the best for us carnies, so to speak. My dad was a carny, so I think it's just in my soul. For us
Okay.
carnies, I love being a carny. I could travel somewhere. I know he cannot, but I could travel somewhere every weekend. I could live in a van. That's just who I am. But it's not there. The economy is not there for it. The shows have not been paying off. So I'm going back to my full time job in the fall. I'm a social worker and a therapist, a counselor, and so I'm going back as a school social worker in the fall. So the Rustic Spirit will have to go in the background a little bit for the time being.
Okay. I want to ask you a question specifically around your profession, actually, and I
Okay.
gleaned it from listening in your podcast. Um, have you ever run across in your travels a fellow named Frankie Adao?
Frankie, I didn't
Adao,
hear that.
Adao, I believe it is. He's in New Jersey, and he is with Team Parasite, the group he's with. They run the Ritz Theater, the Haunted Ritz Theater in
I
Haddontown.
know the Ritz. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I think by association, I might have run in. Well, apparently we're friends on Facebook.
You should be. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking you this is Frankie is a social worker as well. And he works
Oh, I
for
see.
Rutgers University. He and I had I have a background in social services. I spent 10 years in nonprofit work, and I was an executive director of a community social service hub. So he and I were chatting at an event at the Ritz around his belief that there is a tie in the paranormal with trauma informed work.
Oh, 100%. Sorry, that's very
yes.
Yeah.
And I my mind started exploding right there, and my jaw dropped literally because I was like, holy crap, how did I not think of this? So he's
It's all grief. It's all grief journey.
yeah. And here we are every weekend, someone's showing up at an event asking the spirits who may be there to tell us how they died. Like, let's just rehash all of that every week, or every time. And I was
Because,
just like,
okay, so to go on there, I don't mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have ADHD, and if I don't, I'll forget.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. Oh, that's my spirit animal. Stop. Focus. Jamie, tell me that you were, I mean, we all have had major losses, all of us at this age in our life, but tell me that you aren't searching every day when you go investigate for that one person that you lost that you want to connect with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the same with you, Chad. Did you lose someone very important to you that you are hoping you just need to find that answer so you know that this person is on that other side? Okay, so Frankie and I need to have conversations. You being Frankie should sit down. We should have a podcast. I should have you guys on my podcast. We could talk about that.
He is way smarter than I am and way more informed than I am. We in Lancaster County, where we are, Lancaster County has developed a trauma-informed county perspective through Lancaster General Health.
We're trying over here in New York, but it's not working very well.
And it's 6 years in probably, and a good work has happened. I've left the field almost 4 years ago now, so I'm out of the loop as much as I used to be. But I was in some of the planning of that in the early stages, with community engagement, and it's well, there's a lot of good that comes, and unfortunately, we all have by the time it doesn't matter how old you are, by the time you reach any significance of age, you will have some kind of trauma. And the ACEs test and so forth, is a good barometer for some of that. But even more so, we just don't realize what trauma really is.
Trauma is very personal. Like every person who's experienced trauma, what I experienced, I might have felt very traumatic, and to you, okay, whatever. So regardless of ACEs, like trauma is trauma, if you perceive it as such. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're trying here in New York. Yeah.
I thought of you listening to your podcast, and you were talking about being in social work, and I thought, I wonder what your perspective is. So I'm glad I brought it up, because obviously there's something there. There really is.
And I feel like I've been called to do in certain groups in certain areas to help with the healing. And I don't mean to say that in some kind of conceited big headness, but I feel like right now I'm being called back into the schools to work and do the job I need to do there for a reason. Spirit is leading me that way, and I must answer the call. I signed up to be a change agent when I became a social worker, and now it's time for me to use that skill to make some change as best I can, but also to understand, because I feel like I have a very open view on all perspectives. I'm not one-sided on anything. So
right. Well, that's the whole thing. We all, again, going back to our conversation earlier, we all need to be open-minded in the field. Like there's more to learn. There's more to experience. There's more than just the side that we know, and that's growth. Right? I think we all have the ability that we're all lifelong learners. We just have to be willing to take a step.
We do. Absolutely. Yeah. So you might know I'm working. The job I took is for River Rock. They're opening a new location in Harrisburg City School District at the Roland Academy. So I'm the school social worker for River Rock in that district. So it's going to be interesting. That is my population. I really enjoy working with disadvantaged youth. So I'm very excited about it. And, so that's where being from Lakeshore, you probably understand News Story and River Rock, who that is.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. We utilize a lot of resources, in different ways. But River Rock was a primary resource for, and I think in the, I don't know where it
Red
was,
Lion.
the location, but I want to say this.
If you were in Lancaster, probably Red Lion.
Yeah, it was definitely York
Mhm.
County, but I was thinking Southern End somewhere. But Red Lion is, well, technically Southern End, I guess.
They have
So,
Red Lion and Spring Grove is the two
yeah, it's definitely not
locations.
Spring Grove. I know
Yeah.
Spring Grove well,
Mm-hmm.
but no, it definitely had to be Red Lion then. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and well, when you have resources, it doesn't matter really how far they are. Sometimes you just, when there's
Yeah.
limited access, you have to go where the resource is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And sadly, there is just not enough resources at this time.
There is not. There's currently I work part time with Reiki, which used to be NHS, as a behavior consultant. Working 1-on-1 with kids with autism and in schools and trying to analyze behavior and perceive the function. And it's not as active as I like, but that in itself, the field behavior consulting is starting to wind down. So
It's interesting.
yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, sorry.
yeah.
It's okay.
Off on a different tangent.
Uh-huh.
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
We should probably wrap up as we've gone longer than we normally go, which is
I
perfect.
know he's got to get up at 4 a.m. So he's over
Okay.
here like,
So,
can I leave yet?
Stacey, this is where we're going to give you your shameless plug time. Tell us where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. You gave us your website earlier, but what else is out there for you?
Mm-hmm. I think I might be going somewhere really interesting in 2 weeks to investigate.
What might that be?
I don't know. It's some brewery in Mountjoy.
Not real far from us. Yeah.
So we'll be at Boobies in 2 weeks, but I'm also going to be at Penhurst that weekend too. Set up, I have a booth there. So
Okay.
coming from Penhurst on Saturday, it ends at 4. I think it's 4 on Saturday, 4 or 5, and then traveling the hour over investigating, and then going back on Sunday. So Sunday is going to be a very tired. That's all right. I can handle it.
Saturday night's gonna be rough.
No, Saturday night's gonna be fine.
Well, you gotta get up early.
No, we're gonna be okay. If we think it's all the power of the brain. If we think it's gonna be bad, then it's gonna be bad. If we think, we got
I didn't
this.
say it's gonna be bad.
Fine.
I just say it's gonna be a rough night.
So Penhurst and Boobies Brewery in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yep. And then next week, I'm actually not Mother's Day, the day before Mother's Day, I am going to be at Leg Up Farmers Market in York County, Pennsylvania, for a Mother's Day event offering Reiki. So definitely, if you're in the area, New York County area, come out. It's a natural food market that has spawned of their Leg Up Farm, who works with kids with autism and other kids with disabilities. So they've spawned a natural food market, and I will be there for that. And then end of May, we don't have anything actually. We're going to the mountains. We have a friend's cabin that we stay at. And then June, I guess the next big event will be June 21st, the Doss House event, which is the Creeping It Real event that we're doing in June. And Rock on the Hill will be at the beginning of June, which is in Hanover. It's a rock concert, and I always go there and offer readings for.
Okay.
So
very cool.
But if anybody is interested in a reading or Reiki session, visit us at therusticspirit.com, and please go over to our YouTube at the Becoming Enchanted with the Rustic Spirit and follow our YouTube page for our podcast. We do stream live on Facebook, but we're trying to move more over to the YouTube world. So
okay. And when is your podcast? Or when are you typically live?
Typically Thursday nights at 8:30.
Okay.
So every once in a while I'll be on a Tuesday, but we used to be Tuesdays, and then it just didn't work out for our schedule. So now we're Thursday nights at 8:30. This upcoming week, I believe I have Ronald Murphy on. He is going to be my guest this week on this 2 days. So we're going to talk a little Bigfoot, little cryptid talk this week. I'm actually very excited to have him on.
Cool. So All right. Well, it looks like Gary's getting tired, so we will.
I get up 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh no.
If you want to hang, we're gonna do we'll go through what we've got coming up. If you want to hang out in the green room for a second, we will catch up with you in a few minutes.
Yes, sounds wonderful. Thank you for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So, yeah, appreciate it. All right. So, Jamie, what do we have coming up?
Yeah, so a couple episodes up here. Next week, I'm going to tackle the Mars Jumel Mansion in New York City. A week after, on May 20th, Chad's going to take on the Dybbuk box. This was a previous episode that got postponed, so the anticipation has mounted for this one over a couple weeks now. I'm going to after that, I'll deal with the Men in Black and not just the movie series. Then Chad's going to take on Menehune. Man, I got to practice saying it too. Jeez,
Yeah,
I made fun of you last week. Menehune from the Hawaiian Islands. And then coming after that, I'm going to address the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary down in Tennessee. And then after that, a near and dear one to Chad is the hauntings of his childhood home, as you mentioned earlier, over in the Gettysburg area. So some fun and excitement there. I'm looking forward to that one, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up. And then, of course, speaking of good things coming, on the 17th, a week from Saturday, we are doing a Para-Unity event with Land and Legend. Gary and Stacey are going to join us live in person at Bube's Brewery. And tickets are still available, though they are going quickly at this point. I'm going to say there are 13 tickets left. So get them while you can and come out and join us there. Lots of cool stuff, and the brewery as it happened in place with activity. And I'm really excited to see what Gary and Stacey bring with their style of investigation and their knowledge and experience. It's always something. So can't wait. Week from Saturday. Be there, be square. And other public events, obviously we have the 17th on the schedule there, but June 28th, we're going to be out at Crescent for the Paracon and horror event they're hosting on the 28th. And July 26th, we're back at the brewery for another public investigation, as well as on August 16th. See you then. All right. And then, well, there's an ad for the Paracon, of course. Crescent is a really cool place in mid-state. So and it's really not far from our friends at the Doss House. So, you can come out and make a weekend of it there. Lots of fun. I think there's an investigation as well as the Paracon, a separate ticketed event later in the night. And if you haven't been to Crescent, it is one of those places I think everybody should see. What used to be and what is are two uniquely different things there. How the place has kind of come apart in a lot of ways, but the energy that's still there is incredible. So really cool event.
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, how to find us. Well, you found us if you're here with us live tonight. We are on Facebook and YouTube, but also tomorrow, Wednesday, any Wednesday after an episode, we'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, the good stuff there. And we do have a link tree that helps you connect to all of those resources. And if you want to check in with us and perhaps suggest a future episode or comment on something we've talked about, you can always reach us via email at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. Or leave a comment in any of the episodes along the way, and we'll certainly see those things. So, and Chad forwarded the email set to me now, so anything goes to the Gmail address. I get it. We're in. I feel official finally after 102 episodes, but that's okay. It's okay. No big deal.
Sorry.
Better late than never.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
here we are. Right.
We are. So thanks to everybody for coming out and hanging out with us for the hour, or if you're watching us later, we appreciate you joining us. Again, thanks to Gary and Stacey for joining us. Check out their stuff. Really, really great website, and their podcast is definitely worth checking out. So
absolutely, really good stuff. And fantastic people. Even better yet, the best people out there. So we're looking forward to working with them.
And I believe this weekend coming up is Mother's Day, so we should wish all our mothers a happy Mother's Day.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
Happy Mother's Day, all.
So, on that note, we're going to say good night, and thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Good night.